This is Chris. Sorry I took so long to update. This last night has been very stressful and I've needed time to collect myself before putting this on paper. Here is a drawing that I made of the office's layout, since some people wanted a better visualization of it. The black triangle represents the location of the shadow in the office. I guess I'll pick up where I left off. At 3:45 a.m., the female voice began to whisper in a language I didn't recognize. Might have been complete gibberish for all I knew. Starting from a point to my left and seemingly changing direction as it spoke. I was planning to stay in the office and wait until after 4:02 to unlock the door. But what started as a whisper got louder and louder until it began to actually hurt. The voice was all I could perceive. It came at me from every angle and seemed to scream directly into my mind. I realized that it had been only 2 minutes since she started speaking, and I'd go mad if I had to wait another 14. I ran out of the office, past the dust-covered receptionist's desk, and into the short hall where I fumbled with my keys to unlock the door. The screaming stopped as soon as I opened it. The interior of the room is hazy in my memory, but I clearly recall a desk with a chair on either side illuminated in the middle of the room, so dark I couldn't see anything else. A woman sat on the far side of the desk and motioned for me to come in and sit down across from her. Walking through the darkness was odd. My footsteps didn't make any noise and my senses somehow seemed muffled. I had only just sat down when a male voice let out a distressed cry, and I sprinted back to the office without looking back. I made it back at 4 o'clock. I could not have spent more than 20 seconds inside the room. I said in my last post that what happened between 4:01 and 4:02 really shook me up. I promised I'd write it down here. Maybe getting it on paper will help me to stop remembering that thing. When the clock struck 4:01, I heard a blood-curdling, inhuman scream from the lobby. On the camera feed, I don't know what it was that I saw. Something inhuman. I know that I can't recall its shape. Dark, a little bigger than a person. Seeing it then and recalling it now instills a horrible fear in me, so intense that I don't think I'll ever sleep again after seeing it. That thing, it sprinted out of the long hallway into the lobby. It ran to the exterior door at the end of the short hallway, beat at it for a few seconds with limbs that I could neither see nor hear, but was nonetheless sure could kill me in an instant. It gave up on the door, and instead began sprinting back and forth in the hall outside the security office. All I could do was watch it run left and right on the cameras, listening to that horrible scream and the oddly arrhythmic thumping of its formless feet on the cheap linoleum tiles. As I watched it sprint, it suddenly looked at the camera. It had no eyes. I didn't see the rest of its face. All I know is that it stopped then, and I was affixed by its eyeless gaze, until even its screams seemed to fade in the background. I felt it staring into me, burning with a foreign, alien emotion mixed with curiosity. Curiosity that suddenly became hatred. As I looked at it, I knew that this being hated me more intensely than I had ever known anything could hate. It wanted to kill me. It would run forever through fire and hell in pursuit of me. Would never stop until I died by its hand. I would never be free of its unending hatred. It would hunt me down until the day I died. It tore its face from the camera and lunged at the office door, and I suddenly became aware that it had never stopped screaming as it began to beat upon the scratched, painted metal. I don't know how many arms it had. It could have been anywhere from 2 to 9. It seemed to change every time it hit the door. Its screams, as alien and inhuman as they were, seemed to grow frustrated. It desperately needed to get in, needed to rip me apart, and this fucking door was keeping it from the one thing it truly wanted. This piece of metal, this creation of the abomination that is man, was stopping it from attaining the only thing it cared about. The monster's screams rose to a demonic crescendo as the door rattled more and more. I was sure it was about to give out under the stress. Just as I was beginning to accept that I was going to die here, the cacophony of screaming and clanging cut off abruptly. I checked the time. 4:02. I checked the cameras, deciding to test my luck with the one I'd turned off earlier, since it was showing the long hallway. No sign of the monster, and the door was, oddly, undamaged. As soon as I was sure the screaming monster was gone, I opened the binder and used the office phone to call the emergency number. It rang for a long time before someone picked it up. Daniel Edwards? Let me guess, it's a screamer? How did you know? Comes out the same time every night. Stays for exactly a minute. Please only call for stuff that's not in the binder. Is it gone now? I felt that thing staring into me. What happened to the last guy to look in its eye? Am I safe? He hung up without another word. I glanced uneasily at the shadow in the corner, its ominous presence somehow diminished by the fact that it hadn't moved. I resigned that my next bathroom break would be at the nearest place that sold coffee, and the next time I would leave the room would be at the end of my shift. The rest of the night was stressful. The dark figure in Building 2 kept appearing on feeds in the corner of my vision, only to vanish as soon as I tried to look closer. Several times I noticed cameras showing parts of Building 2 that weren't there before. An office door down the hall from me opened and closed on its own irregular intervals, making me jump every time. At 5:55, every odd number the camera showed the long hallway, and I had to frantically turn them off. I could have sworn that a few of them showed a vague, eyeless face in the distance. As the night drew to a close, I noticed that the clock on my phone was about 16 minutes behind the one on the wall. I decided I'd wait until the slower of the two showed it was time to go. I didn't want to risk leaving early and getting caught by whatever was responsible for the rule to stay here until dawn. I'll just write a simple time-stamped log of what happened in the final hours of my shift because it's easier to follow. 6:30. Camera 4 showed a man with my build and hair color in the lobby. He turned to look at it, and he had my face, but something seemed off about it. I blinked and he vanished. 6:57. Camera 6, which looks down the short hallway, showed the heavy metal door rattling for about 20 seconds. 7:13. The chair at the receptionist's desk fell over. 7:15. The receptionist's chair was standing up. The layer of dust on it was untouched. 7:32. Camera 16 showed a hallway in Building 2 that, based on my perception of its layout, would have been outside the building's footprint. 7:50. I noticed symbols, or perhaps characters in a foreign language, that appeared to be drawn in the dust on the receptionist's computer screen. An ancient CRT monitor with a beige plastic exterior. 8 o'clock. Symbols are gone. The shadow in the corner of the room has disappeared. Sunlight finally begins to slip around the edges of the shutters. My shift ended at 9. You can be damn sure that I wanted to book it out of there as soon as I could. On my way home from the office to the door, something in the long hallway caught my attention from the corner of my eye. As hard as I tried not to look at it, it forced me to turn my head. In the hallway, a long distance away, maybe 100 yards, maybe a few steps, distance doesn't work right here, was a face. It had no eyes, just depressions in its skin, if it even had skin, where the eyes should have been, and it grinned at me with human teeth. It took a huge amount of willpower, but I managed to pull my gaze away from it, open the shutter and front door, unlock the gate, and drive away so fast that if there were cops in the area, I'd have my license taken away then and there. I threw the keys onto the ground in front of the door. I felt that thing's gaze burning into the back of my head as I sped away. It became less intense with distance, but I still feel it watching me now, at home, across the city. Faint, but not gone. I haven't slept. I haven't eaten. I tried to contact the company, but can't find a damn thing about them online. The website is gone. Google returns no results, and on Google Maps there's no company listed at their address. There's no history of them on the job listing site. I even had the foresight to write down the emergency number in the binder, but calling it gives me an automated message telling me the number is no longer in service. A check arrived in the mail earlier today. No return address, and a name on the check, Joshua Collins, wasn't enough to go off on. It came with a note. Here's the night's pay. I have a feeling you won't be back for another shift. Any residual effects you experience should disappear over the coming days. Thank you for working at Reducted Incorporated, a subsidiary of Extra Normal Containment Solutions. Joshua Collins, Project Lead. I don't know what the fuck I got myself into. I hope I don't get tied up in any of this. Extra Normal Containment Solutions sure sounds a whole lot like a real-life equivalent of the SCP Foundation, and if they're anything alike, I prefer to stay the fuck away. I know for a fact I won't ignore red flags in the hiring process like that ever again. I'll never sign up for a suspicious job offer as long as I live. It's fully cemented in my mind now. When something seems too good to be true, it is.